And in the week that the woman, Sarah Everard, was abducted and we suppose killed because remains have been found in a woodland in Kent, I would argue that at the next opportunity for any bill that's appropriate, I might actually put in an amendment to create a curfew for men on the streets after 6 p.m, which I feel would make women a lot safer, and discrimination of all kinds would be lessened.
Well, there you have it, a speech from the floor of the Palace of Westminster, the British Parliament, a call for a curfew against men. I don't know if she was serious about it. It was, of course, in reaction to a terrible crime committed against a woman, and thus the proposed penalty is a group punishment against all men. Joining us now to talk about this and other diminutions of civil liberties is our friend Calvin Robinson, pundit, activist, and a member of a senior fellow of the Policy Exchange in the UK. Calvin, great to see you again. What do you make of that speech? It's really caught fire, that idea. I don't know if it was made in jest or as a dramatic example, but I can't believe it. That idea is taking hold.
First of all, thank you for inviting me on again, Ezra. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
How outrageous was that? In the Mother of Parliaments, we have a peer, a baroness no less, standing up and suggesting the idea that all men should be locked away after 6 p.m. Now, I don't for 1 minute think she was serious. I can't believe that she would say something like that and be serious. I believe she's trying to make a point. But the fact that she could stand in our Houses of Parliament and make that suggestion just shows how far we've come, because no one challenged her, no one laughed, no one booed her, no one called her out. It just became another lord saying another thing. And that is because we've just spent the past year locked away in our homes. It's become second nature now. No one had heard of locking down a Western society, in fact, any society, until China did it. And we followed the Communist Party of China in their policies, as if that's ever a good idea. It's absolutely bonkers that we've come to this authoritarian, draconian point in time where it's almost feasible for a Western state, a democracy, to lock away half of its population. And then she said it's in the name of cutting down on discrimination. You're going to discriminate against half the population in order to prevent discrimination.
Yeah.
Something's not right.
Yeah, I think you're right that a year of conditioning people in the UK that they can be locked in their homes turned it from an absurd jest. I'm with you. I don't think she actually truly meant it. I think she was speaking poetically or dramatically or out of exasperation, but you lock down, essentially have a curfew in a whole country for a year. All of a sudden, the Overton window is shifted. Let me play for you a clip from I think he's the Prime Minister of Wales, who's a Labour Party politician. So like Scotland, they have sort of a devolved parliament, if I understand it correctly. And he later walked this back. But at least for a while, it looks like he was seriously considering. Here, I'll let the viewers judge for themselves. Take a look.
Some people have said sometimes that if there were an area particularly where there were concerns, women maybe being assaulted or feeling particularly scared, that there should be a curfew on men for a period of time. Is that something that you would consider?
It wouldn't be on the top of the list of things that we would consider, because it would be, at the very best, a temporary intervention.
But you would. I'm sorry, to be clear, you say you wouldn't. It's not the top of your list. I can only take it from that you could not rule out that being a potentially something that you would do.
If there were a crisis and you needed to take dramatic action that allowed that crisis to be drawn down, then of course you'd be prepared to consider all measures that would make a difference. But the sort of measure, the curfew measure that you've described, it could only ever be a temporary answer, and therefore it's not at the top of our list. There are other things that we can do and should do, and we'll work hard with our third sector organisations or local authorities in Wales. As I say, people need to be safe and to feel safe.
There you have it. The First Minister of Wales saying he would, in fact, consider it if it was a crisis. Whether, I mean, like I say, he later walked that back a bit, but look, this was treated as a serious subject, and all over social media, people are deadly serious about it. I don't think it's actually going to happen, Calvin, but it shows not only identity politics, but just a total lack of civil liberties. That's what I think.
Wales has been the worst, or one of the worst. The whole United Kingdom has been terrible in this, actually. But Wales in particular, because when we closed our shops for lockdowns, Wales went a step further. And the essential shops that we allowed to remain open, such as supermarkets, they had non-essential items barred off. So you could go in there and buy fruit. You couldn't buy pen and paper, for example. They went to the minutiae level of controlling people's lives. And I think that's very terrifying, that when a government is so happy and so comfortable doing that. It's very worrying for me. And in Scotland, they've taken measures too far as well. This is why devolution does not work. The United Kingdom is one kingdom, one country, one nation, and we should be ruled from Westminster. We shouldn't have all these devolved parliaments making absolutely silly decisions on their own.
Well, let me ask you this. I understand the First Minister of Wales is a Labour politician. I understand the peer, the member of the House of Lords, I think she's also Labour. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
She was Green.
Pardon me?
She's a Green Party.
Green Party, thank you for the correction. So these are parties of the left. Has the Conservative Party, has the party of Boris Johnson, have they pushed back on this? I mean, even just in a dismissive manner, has anyone said this is nuts?
Not as far as I've seen yet. And that's, again, concerning. In England, we obviously have a Conservative government with an 80-strong majority, so they can push through whatever regulations and legislation they like. But we haven't seen much anti-lockdown sentiment coming from our party, coming from the right. We've seen a lot of, all of these measures have been brought in by the Conservative government, actually, and the left have been saying, we want more, we want to push further. So there's no opposition. There is no party out there saying, actually, stop. We don't want our citizens to be locked down, or subjects of the United Kingdom to be locked away and their liberties taken away. Where is that coming from? Which is why it's good to see small parties popping up like Reclaim and like Reform and like the SDP to say to the larger parties, you know what, you need to stand up for the people of this country that deserve the right to earn a livelihood, deserve a right to have meaning in their lives, and deserve a right to decide who they welcome into their own homes, because an Englishman's home is his castle. That's what this nation was founded on, the principle of freedom of association and freedom of expression, and they're all being washed away by what should be a centre-right government.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.